So, hello everyone. Good day. We have here Jasveer, the author of Ensemble. So, yes, Jasveer, can you please tell us what was your book all about?
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you for having me here. Ensemble is my first attempt at creating an anthology. It's a collection of short stories, stories from my life, from my childhood, life from my, stories from my corporate life. And then, of course, there are fictional stories, which ranges from adventure to drama to, let's say, thriller and horror. And then I've got some life lessons in terms of essays. So it's got a lot in it. It's got essays about COVID, it's got essays about motivation, some serious stuff about closure and suicide. So it's got something for everyone. And like I said, it's my first attempt at creating an anthology. So let's hope I have created a good one.
I'm sure you really had created a good one, very good one. So, what pushed you to write this book?
Uh, you know, I had a lot of stories. I started writing back in 2018, and since then I've published about six books, which are six novels, and they are just one story throughout the book. But I had a lot of short stories. I was writing for online portals and other places, stories, essays, and that sort of stuff. And somebody gave me an idea. Why don't you create a book out of these? There are a lot of anthologies coming up these days, and especially youngsters are very keen on reading anthologies, because what happens is, with a full-time book, you read a few chapters and then you keep the book down. Let's say you don't read for a few days, and then after a few days you pick up that book again, but that connectivity is missing, because it's been so many days, so it's very hard to recall. But with an anthology, you read a few stories, you keep it down, and then you start with a new story. So each chapter is a different story, each chapter brings about a new message, each chapter brings about a new taste. uh, so even if you read it after a few days, you don't miss the connection. That's why I thought, let's go with an anthology. I've had about 70,000 words of short stories, essays, and memories, and I collated them in a single book. Each chapter is different with a different taste, and let me see how it goes.
All right. So yes, I think yeah, when someone puts down the book and then forgot the flow of the story, then someone will just have to read it all over again for him or her to remember what's the previous scenes or something like that. So
Yes.
yeah, so I think anthology or compilation of short stories or essays are like much better in terms of in that matter. So when did you realize you wanted to write? Like I really want to become a writer. So when did it happen and how?
The secret, and I always share this with all my readers and during interviews. The biggest secret is that, or rather, the ironic thing about my writing is that I was never an avid reader. You know, before I started writing in 2018, I may have read a book or two. So that comes as a shock to everybody listening to me, knowing about my life, that I was never a reader. But back in 2018, I started writing as a way of self-analysis. I'm a soft skill and behavioral skills trainer, and during stress management trainings, I keep talking about how writing can help people, and I've always maintained a diary. So my first book is essentially my diary, my own diary. It's the memories of my childhood from 80s India, small town India. That became my first book, version one and a half. And I hadn't even realized that I had written so many words, but somebody said, why don't you show me your diary? What do you write? I said, go ahead. It's nothing. It's just memories of a common man, a childhood of a common man. And I had never given a thought to writing a book. When he read the story, he was already an author. He's my friend Chetan Singh. God bless his soul. He passed away in May 2021 to COVID. We lost him. And this was his idea. He suggested, why don't you publish this? He had already published a book. He was already a published author. And that's how I got the idea. And I was like, seriously, you want me to publish a book? You want me to be an author? And I was like, I have never read a book. I told Chetan, and he said, doesn't matter. Why don't you read a book now and see what changes you can make to this? Because he was surprised to see 55,000 words. And he said, wow, this is already a book, but why don't you read a book? So that is the time I started reading a few books. I read a few Indian books, I read a few international books, English books, and that's when I thought, yeah, why not? Why not? Let's give it a thought. And I have self-published my first book. All my books are self-published except for this one, which Yogi Auto Publishing is publishing. All other books are self-published, and that's how the journey started. And once I started, I couldn't stop. I've been publishing ever since. And here comes Ensemble, my next one.
Yes, so thank you so much for telling me that story. And true, when someone says that to become a better writer, you really like have to read a lot of
Oh
books.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
I'm really glad that you are agreeing to what your friend says, that you really muster up your courage to like self-publish, because I think it's really not easy. So how did you feel having your first self-published book?
I mean, it was a relief. Firstly, I never thought I could do it. So reading and writing started as a habit, and it's still continuing. But I was still not sure. Self-publishing. I spoke to the publisher. They had a look at the manuscript, and they said, "Yeah, we can publish it." I said, "Go for it," and I couldn't believe it till the time, I had the first copy in my hand, and it was a mixed feeling seeing your book. Obviously, self-publishing is about getting the editor, getting it done. And I admit, my book was not perfect. I could see some errors, funnily, and it was hilarious to see those errors. And I said, let's change it. So that kept happening. So it was nerve-wracking. It was quite nervous, when I did my first book. But after that, it's been okay. Yeah, and I felt a sense of achievement when finally the book was out. It was a great
Yes,
achievement.
and you really have
Yeah.
to hold it personally in your on your hand, right? So
Oh yeah.
right. So thank you, Jasveer, for that. And yes, what's your viewpoint like about, have you ever got a bad reviews of your self-published books or even the ensemble right now? So how do you deal with those like bad reviews, if ever there will be bad reviews?
Yeah, and this is what I share a lot. Uh, when you publish a book, you're in public domain. When you publish content or post content on, let's say, YouTube or Instagram, you're in public domain, and every person will read your book from their point of view. What might be good for you may not be good for others. So as authors, as content creators, be it online or print content, we all have to be ready for bad reviews. Because like I said, what might sound good to me may not sound good to anybody else. So what might work in India, or let's say in Canada, might not work in the UK, or maybe the USA, or Australia, or maybe Philippines. Let's talk about Philippines. So every country has got their own kind of an accent or dialect in English, and they have certain words, or they like to use grammar in a certain way. So what might work for me may not work somewhere else, and I might get a bad review. And being a self-published author, I don't have those many resources to get it edited at a very high level as maybe a traditionally published author with a big company might have. So people might not think it's up to the mark, or maybe up to those standards, right? So we all need to be prepared for that. because like I said, in public domain, everybody has an opinion, and we have to accept that opinion. If it's good for you, use it. Change in your writing style. If you can make a change in your book, do that. If you can't, too bad. Take it with a pinch of salt. That's it.
Okay. Yes, that's true. It's really all about the preference of people, right? So, yeah. So we really have to like get ready for it, and
Oh
if
yeah,
it can be helped, then we should apply it to our next books or such. But if it's
yeah.
too getting personal, then I thought we should ignore that one. But anyway, thank you very much for that. So,
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an
mhm,
example.
yeah.
Right. So there is editing, right? And then there is professional editing, which is the high end stuff. Now, you're aware in self publishing, editing costs money, right? And editors are expensive. Let's face it, they are really good. If they are if they are good, they will be expensive, right? Nobody is in this for charity. So everything costs money. It may or may not be in my budget. So it's, as an author, I have to decide what level of editing do I want. Do I want just basic spell check when it comes to editing? Do I want basic grammar, or do I want really high end genre based, that polished editing? What do I want? And it all depends upon the budget, plain and simple. So like I said, if it suits your budget, go for it. If it doesn't, sleep over it.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And as
Yeah.
an aspiring author too, I really do like take that advice from you. But anyway, have you ever wrote a poem? Like have you what about you what's your viewpoint about poetry? Do you ever have it has it ever crossed your mind that you will write poetry?
Not exactly. No, either it's there or it's not there. Poets are very natural in, making the words meet, and creating that symphony. Unfortunately, I'm a storyteller. I'm a trainer. I'm a soft skill behavioral skills trainer. So I do a lot of storytelling during my training. So that comes natural to me. And poetry is something that has to come natural. You can't sort of get up one day and say, oh, "Wow, I'm going to be a poet." Either you're a poet or you're not a poet. And unfortunately, I'm not a poet. Uh, for my previous book, The Incredible Mr. Sweets, I wanted some songs composed, right? And I have given credit to the poets who composed the
Mm.
songs for the book. There are two original songs in the book, because my protagonist was a singer, an aging singer. But I thought, why not? Let's have some original songs in it. So yeah, songs have been written for me by poets and lyricists, and I've credited to them. So, but yeah, the answer to your question is no. I'm not a poet. No.
Okay, you would rather have someone else to write those like two songs
Yeah, if it's part
than.
of the story, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, somebody else will do that.
All
I'm a
right.
storyteller. I create stories.
Okay, thank you so much, Jasveer, for that one. Now, um, for the short stories, like of all the characters in Ensemble, is there any similar to you when it comes to traits or characteristics? Who and why?
Oh yeah, there's a story called Moon in the Pond, right? And that's a childhood story. Uh, it's kind of a childhood legend that we used to hear, living in a very small town. And truly, if I look at my childhood, I was really adventurous. And there's also the Hunt for Tuticondi Zoo, right? That's a place in Shimla. So that's again a childhood story wherein me and two of my pals, we set out to hunt for a zoo, in a hill station. So I also have childhood photographs. It's a true story. And if I look back, my childhood is exactly what I am now. I'm still a child at heart. I'm still adventurous, right? I still love to explore unknown. And these two stories are, of course, they are non-fiction, they are real. But out of all the stories in the book, these two are where, you'll find that, oh yeah, this is just Jasveer. If anybody knows me, really closely, they would say, yes, this is what his childhood was, and this is what he is now.
All right. Wow. All right. So
Yeah.
everybody, you must really have to like get each of you a copy so that you can
Oh,
read
yeah.
and anyway, so in writing, how did you find time or like how did you manage your time?
I think, it's all about how do you prioritize. And my writing can take place anywhere. Authors would tell you that they need really peace and quiet, but I must share. My fourth book, The Metromaniac Chronicle, was written while I was traveling in public transport back in India in 2019. So I can write anywhere. Traveling in a bus, train. If I get an idea, I just take out my phone and I type it. You know, so I have lots of stories saved in my phone. Uh, I can write anywhere. So I don't need to take out that special time to write. I can write before going to the bed. So I take about 15 minutes to half an hour and I write. And, I push it, so to speak. If I have an idea, and if I get it at midnight or maybe 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, I immediately get up and make it a point to note that idea. Otherwise,
Oh,
that idea is going to be lost. So I don't take out special time. But what I do is I have so many gaps in the daytime. I use them. I really use them at work, at during traveling, while driving. If I get time, I make it a point to write. So that's
wow.
how I've been able to produce a lot of material.
Right. So that really takes a lot of dedication because I think me as an aspiring writer, I think I haven't write in months. So yeah, I really look up to
Oh,
you.
okay. See,
Okay.
if you are serious about something, if you're serious about a passion, then you
Mm-hmm.
have to make time. You cannot complain, and I've heard this. My cousin is going through that. She's been sitting on about 15,000 words for over 2 years, 3 years, I don't know, and she's not been able to
Oh,
write. Yeah.
okay.
I keep telling them, take some time out, make sure you identify your time wasters, and this is time management 101. Identify the time wasters and fill writing with those time wasters. Just replace it. It could be anything. It could be talking on phone, WhatsApp, social media. It could be just loitering around your neighborhood. Replace that activity with writing. That's it. Nothing extraordinary.
Right. Yeah, but that itself is extraordinary. Like it requires discipline. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jasveer, for that one. Thanks a lot. Now, for you, what do you think makes a good story?
Uh, I think what makes a good story for me is that if I can set it in the real life world, real world, that makes a good story for me. I can relate to it. Uh, I'll give you an example. I mean, it's a great movie, obviously, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It was a fictional story, but he used real life incidents. So that's what I prefer. And that's what I love about stories. If they are based around real life incidents, real life characters, I kind of relate to them. And I make it a point to use real life incidents, real life people in all my stories. And I find that really engaging.
All right. So as long as like it's realistic and people
It's
can
realistic,
like
yeah.
relate of all what's happening in the story. So
Yeah.
thank you for that one. Now, what do you like to do when you're not writing, like aside from work and all?
I'm an outdoor person, so I love traveling. I love, hiking, trekking, and all that stuff. I love nature. So, yeah, that's what I would love to do, to be out.
Right, to have fresh air and all
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Jasvir. Now, what advice would you give to those aspiring writers aiming to become a published author like you?
Don't be scared.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first step, which is the most difficult one. The moment you get over that step, you will be able to do it again and again. Uh, Take criticism with a pinch of salt and learn whatever you can, right? But remember, you will not reach that stage if you haven't taken the first step. So don't be scared. Get your book reviewed through beta reading from readers, get the feedback, make changes, get it edited. Remember, editing is very important, and get it published. And if you receive a bad feedback, if you receive criticism, learn from it. Don't be scared. Just keep at it, keep at what you're doing. And the most important thing is that remember that you will not earn money from book publishing, right? Don't get disheartened. Remember, writing is an art, and art may or may not pay your bills. Your job will pay your bills. Keep at your job and keep writing as a side hustle, but keep at it. Don't give it up. Thank you. That's what I wanted to say.
Right. That's really good. So, yeah, thank you for that very wonderful advice. Now, aside from this newly released book, The Ensemble, any other thing or announcement you'd like to let everyone know about like your writing career?
I am working on my first ever superhero story. So I don't know if it's gonna be good or not, but I've always loved superhero stories and I've created my own. I've got about 50,000 words already, and I am still working on it. Like I said, it's not in the initial stages, but it's in the advanced stages. I haven't edited it yet, but and I have to work a lot on the story. I'm working with some designers to create characters out of it. I wanted to create a comic book out of it, but it may or may not be a comic book, but it's definitely going to be a book. I hope to get it ready by maybe January or February next year. And so, yeah, that's a big project for me. And then I'm also working on another a collection of short stories, but the difference is going to be that it's only going to have 5 stories. So they're going to be pretty long stories, but then there'll be 5 different stories in that book. So these two projects I'm really keen on completing by next year.
All right. So hopefully we will be seeing that two projects next year. So yes, are
Absolutely.
there any other people you'd like to thank?
Oh yeah, my family, my wife, they are a constant encouragement for me. What happens is you get good response, and at times you get bad response. And by bad response, I mean you don't have sales, people are not buying the book, or maybe it's not selling that much. But my family has been a constant encouragement. They keep encouraging me to write, and that's what I do. And I want to thank to them. Of course, Chetan, who's no more, God bless his soul, he's listening to in heaven. Thank you so much. He gets the credit for making an author out of me. And, my friends, people whom I love, everybody, they've always loved my books. Thank you so much for that.
All right. So, yes, now you can invite your readers to follow you on like social media sites.
Yes, please. This is the book. I have the first few copies. Thank you so much, Yuki Otto, for sending the copies on time. The book will be available on Amazon and Amazon Kindle and ebook and paperback. My social media handles are my full name, which is Jasveer Singh Dangi. Last name is spelled as Dangi. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Feel free to connect with me. Also, my website is jasveersinghdangi.com. No spaces, no gaps, jasveersinghdangi.com. I host a podcast there. I speak to a lot of authors there. So feel free to get in touch with me if you want to feature on podcast. And you can also get updates about my books on my website.
All right. So, thank you very much, Jasvir. Now, finally, how was your experience with the UK Euro Publishing?
Oh, great. This is my first experience with a traditional publisher. And honestly, I was a bit skeptical because I'm a self published author. So I publish at my pace. But then, yeah, the team was really good and they did some good rounds of editing. I think 2 or 3 rounds of editing they've done. They accepted the changes that I suggested, and of course, I accepted the changes of the editor as well. And it's really easygoing process with Yukioto, and their response time is pretty short, which is very unlikely for a traditional publisher. They responded really quickly, and I really love the process, the entire process. Thank you so much, Yukioto.
Thank you so much too, Jasveer. And yeah, that would be all. And I really thank you for taking your precious time for here to attend this interview. So thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here.
Right. So yes. So thank you so much. And everyone, do not forget to buy a copy of his book. So that's available on our website too. That's written on the description. All right. So yeah, have a good day.
Have a good day. Thank you.